Drolor zambe tseparche Pande lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara suma timonishas Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Omo A Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om A Guru Vajra Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timonisha Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke kudan dagi alu Pakyuke sundan dagi nga Pakyuke tukdan dagi Ten yerme çıktı cingi alu Makyuke kudan dagi lu Makyuke sundan dagi Makyuke tukdan dagi Tün yerme çıktı çingi alu Om Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Sashi Puki Chukshi Medo Trama Rirav Lingshi Nide Gembadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Ulvargi Drugu Namda Shingla Chupar Sho Yidama Guru Ratna Mindrala Kamniryata Yami Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chodan tsogi chona janchu pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chodan tsogi chonam la janchu pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparasho.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Namo Alhai Ke Dan Ludan Nöjin Ke Drubundada Mi Ke Namdan Drubakun Ke Tanam Chitsampa Tamche Ke To Dagi Chöten To. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Stavo ricordando un verso.
I was remembering a verse by Lama Tsongkhapa that says,
Samba sangna sadan lamyang sang, samba ngengna sadan lamyang tamche sambadala ragle pes. Che dice?
which means,
Quando I pensieri
when our thoughts are virtuous, when they're good, when they're wholesome, the 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 stages, the places,
I luoghi, gli stadi
the states, the path, the places are positive, and everything depends on our thoughts. When they're not
abbiamo la tendenza spesso
virtuous, then also they're not virtuous. We have this tendency of going to extremes. So we start from a materialistic point of view where everything depends on an external reality, where our emotional state of being, our mental state of being is the result of what's happening outside. And then sometimes we can interpret it. I mean, we can go to another extreme. We can interpret it to another extreme where we say, no, what comes from outside doesn't mean anything. Everything depends on the mind, and I don't think it's like that either. If we look a little bit more closely, we see that mind, body, and environment, all three are like manifestations of the same thing. So the environment that I live, that I perceive, it doesn't exist independently from me, and it's not just a mental issue. It's also physical. I live my surroundings through my body, in the sense that my senses, I'm not able to perceive and experience the world around me, the environment around me, if not through my senses. Like my little, my dog Maitri, when she was a puppy, and I would take her to the forest, and our friend Silvia, she would say, you need to train her in the woods. Go in the woods without the leash, and then at a certain point, let her go and then hide behind a tree, because she needs to learn that when she's with you, you're the one leading. That that she needs to find you, not that you need to find her. And she said, it's easier with you because you're dressed in red. I said, what does that have to do with it? And she said, because in the woods, in the woods, there's a lot of green, and you're dressed in red. I mean, green and red is really different. I mean, we can see the difference between green and red, but instead, for a dog, it's the same. According to the vision of a dog, green and red are like two shades of gray. So for them, it's very difficult for them to distinguish between green and red. That's why you know. So it's easy to hide among all the green. So then I thought, well, this napkin here, is it red or is it not red? Yes, because we're human beings, and so we have a similar vision. The waves that come to our eyes as human beings, we perceive it in a similar way. But is it red because it appears red in an intrinsic way, or because as human beings we have a sense faculty that's similar? So if I see red, red, yellow, green, blue, I mean, these colors don't exist autonomously, independently from my own senses, which doesn't mean that external reality doesn't exist, but I live everything through my senses. So the world that surrounds me, I perceive it through my body. And with the mind, I attribute a meaning and the sensation. I mean, this is also totally connected to our body. So we have this tendency to want to separate things to be able to understand them. So we say, so environment is one thing, and then the body is another, and our mind is yet another. But when we go to see, just if I simply ring this, play the singing bowl, as we hear the sound of the singing bowl, is it something that exists exclusively? Um, I mean, it's something that exists in this union of environment, body, and sound, and it's difficult to decipher where the sound comes from because the mind that perceives the sound of the singing bell can only exist with the sound of the singing bell. Try to access the part of your mind that's generate the mind that perceives the sound of the singing bowl. We can maybe we can generate the mind that perceives the memory, but but we need the sound of the singing bowl to perceive the sound of the singing bowl. But the sound of the singing bowl doesn't exist without the mind that perceives the sound of the singing bowl, and also without that sense faculty that perceives it. So we need that sense object for the sense faculty to perceive it. So they're mutually exclusive. So when we see that two things are mutually dependent, so if one's there, the other has to be there, and vice versa. So this external reality, the environment in which we live in, our body and our mind, they are, for me, these all three, they're deeply connected, like as if they were manifestations of the same thing. We can't separate them. So, I mean, so anything that happens in the external environment has an effect on my body and mind, and the same way, if anything that happens in my body has an effect on my mind and my environment, anything that happens in my body, the same thing, and are we are constantly transforming through these changes. As I was saying before, we go from one extreme to another. It's kind of like a pendulum. So normally, we're at the extreme where what is there is external environment. So my emotional state, what I'm living, is only the result of what's happening around me. And it's not really like that. Then there's another, and it really, I mean, this pendulum can go into three directions, can go to the other extreme where we say, oh, there's only the body that exists. Our thoughts, our emotions, they're only a result of synapses or chemical states of the brain. The mind is and what you feel is only a result of your physical, chemical state of being. There's nothing more. And then there's the third extreme that says, no, body and mind are nothing. It's the mind is everything, as if it could exist separately from everything else, autonomously. So for me, it's a fundamental point to be able somehow to understand and act with awareness within this union. And we're not usually able to separate things, or actually better, to not separate things, to live body, mind, and environment as one thing. And that's very difficult for us. But at least have the awareness that everything's connected. So given that our pendulum goes from one extreme to another, to bring it to the center, we need to bring it back. So the part that where we need to pull it to bring it is closer to the mind, because our surrounding environment we can transform it. Yes, up to a certain point. Our body we can change. Sure, absolutely. Our body has an infinite number of autonomous functions. And then there are some that depend on our discernment, and it's interesting that we're able to feel good or feel bad with those three things that we are able to do, like what we eat, when we sleep. There's just very few things that make the difference. And really determine whether everything's working well or not. But it's interesting, if we were to look for who's in control, we would see that it's actually the mind, because our body is fundamental, but what determines the way that I act physically, there's an influence that comes from our body, yes. There's something that comes from our environment also, but who gives the main push? Emotions, desire, our thoughts, our will, the view of my worldview. These are the main directors. Without excluding the importance of our body and the environment, it's fundamental to recognize the importance of our mind. Also because it's what, at the end of the day, where we can act the most. And recognizing the power of our mind, and in the tradition of Buddhism, we're given so many tools to develop states of awareness, particular awareness. I mean, where we really recognize the power of our mind, what we're doing with the San Mandala, for example, or the practice that we did in the previous days of a young troop, and many other things. If we want to simplify it up to, too much, these are tools that use the power of the mind. We're visualizing, we're desiring, we're generating, we're aspiring, we're directing our mind in a certain way. As once my Dragon Rinpoche, my master, said, also because the first thing that we need to do for something to happen is to desire it. So an enormous importance is given to motivation. When we begin something, why are we doing it? What's our intention? Because what happens is this: the direction that I give to my mind, the motivation that I generate, and then as a consequence that brings also the priorities that I'm going to give the things that are important or not to me, among other things, they are going to determine how we interact with the world, and they're also going to determine our perception of reality. What floats up in our consciousness. Like the example I gave yesterday, in the heat in the summer, for example. If I live the heat as a fact, it's hot during the summer. The real problem would be if it were 10 degrees, but we're at the end of June, and so it's hot in the summer. And if that's just a fact, and I don't live it as a threat, naturally, I'll give very little importance to that, and I'll have inner space to live other things. Because let's remember, the inner space that we have is very limited. In other words, using an analogy that's not the best, but it works, let's say our database is very limited. I'm able to process a certain amount of information. I'm able to manage a certain amount of things. And if I have a threat in front of me, my priority then is to face that threat. If for me the fact that I'm losing my hair is a threat, then that becomes it becomes an enormous priority for me. Like, oh, they're looking at me from this angle. Oh, don't take pictures of me from behind or from above, because I live everything through that. And then it becomes part of my priority, my reality. Instead, if heat is a threat for me, I'll always look at the weather forecast. I'll be afraid when I see that that a window doesn't have a curtain to block out the sun, or worry about the air conditioning system. When I see the windows open in the Gompa, for example, and I know the system well, and it's just to, so that we can rejoice. We can cool down the Gompa for no expense, because we have also these solar panels and a geothermic system, but for all of the air to circulate, the windows need to be closed. So please, if you can close the door, that would be great. So when we give importance to something, that thing takes a lot of space within. The more importance I give to that thing, the more I'll see that thing everywhere, and consequently, I'll interact with it everywhere. I'll end up acting. I'll make choices, etc., based on that. So what happens is, one thing is having a vague desire, but something else is feeling a threat. A threat takes a higher, it's a higher priority within. Not to repeat always the same things, but that system, that system that actually decides what we can see or not. I mean, the amount of information that we're able to manage is minimum. We're talking about like 50 over, or 2,000 over millions. So when we have a threat in front of us, that becomes an absolute threat, and it becomes priority, and we relate with that as such, and consequently, That's when we feel we have a threat where we can do something. But if I live, if it's summer and it's hot and I keep talking about how hot it is and I keep creating this threat around the heat, what I've done, I've already done. What I could do, I've already done. Of course, if it's hot, I'm careful to keep the house in a certain way. I'm careful in the same way that I'm careful when it's cold and during the winter. But when I create an normalcy, if it becomes like normal, then it but when it's no longer a threat, then I don't see it anymore. Just as an example, our mind really determines the environment that we live. Because in our environment, there's an infinite number of things, but among all those things, what is part of my reality with awareness, what my mind is able to see. So here we have a fundamental importance. It's fundamental to generate our motivation at the beginning of the day, because when we generate our motivation, it's not just something wholesome, because in Buddhist teachings, it's said that you need to generate wholesome thoughts. Okay, so I make my coffee and I sit down for 2 minutes and I recite Buddha Dharma Sangha. I take refuge into enlightenment through the practice of generosity and other perfections. May I obtain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. Okay, I've done it. I've generated my motivation. No, I recited the verses to generate the motivation. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is when we wake up in the morning, when we begin the day, is what are my priorities? Really, what do I want? Because according to our priorities, our world will transform itself. Things will change. And it's a fundamental question. It's not obvious. Then there are those moments, magic moments, where strangely we have some kind of mental clarity. There are some moments where, wow, we're able to feel something beautiful, have clarity. And we have a clear motivation of what I want. In those moments of special clarity and inspiration, we need to take them and then go back to those states, even artificially. We need to regenerate the motivation, because it doesn't become spontaneous until it's spontaneous. At a certain point, though, you don't need to recite, you don't need to think about it. It's just part of your being. But until that happens, one needs to regenerate it. And here there are many motivations that we can generate it. The motivation to live a life that's coherent with our surroundings, or that's coherent with peace, create good relationships around us. There's the basis motivation. Well, if I'm not able to do good, at least I won't do harm. And there are other motivations. I want to face my selfishness by developing altruism. I want to be of benefit to those I meet. May every word I say, every action I do, my own image and the memory of me, may it be of benefit to others. Not in an egocentric way, like, oh, just think about me. But no, may any interaction that I have, may that be beneficial. Physical, verbal, mental, in any way, no matter how it is, may it be beneficial. And I start to think, may I overcome this obsession with the I and the mind. If we generate this in a sincere way, naturally um, we'll, will generate opportunities during the day to generate this, even without awareness. That's why Lama Tsongkhapa said, when the mind is wholesome, then the places and our thoughts and the stages to get there, the paths to get there, are wholesome. And when they're not, the opposite is true too. So if I have states of mind that are based on playing the victim, or feeling resentful, or I'll see the whole world through that. It's like when I went to see the reincarnation of Lama Rinpoche for the first time, Francesco Naropa, and Trijang Rinpoche said, since it's the first time, go with a neutral mind, because you need to give space to your own experience, to see, to test it out. Because he said, because if you go with a mind that's full of faith, even the tankas are move. The images in the wall move. And if you go with a negative mind, even the Buddha appears as a demon. So I did that as best as I could, and it worked. So generally, what happens is, I can be in front of a living Buddha. But if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, if I play the victim, if I am in a state of anger and resentment, I'll see it all in front of that Buddha in front of me. So what happens is, if I am in an inner state of anger or victimization, I'll see the world through those eyes. I'll see what's not going right. I remember once I went to talk to a group near Milan. It was the University of the for old age, and it was very nice. But at the end, two people came to me and said, how dare you come here and speak so arrogantly? And I said, oh, tell me more. I mean, when I receive criticism, I really want to understand. I mean, I did something, maybe that didn't work for this group. It was absolutely not my intention to be arrogant or aggressive. So I said, please explain it to me. And he said, here, with our problems, you come here with all that peace and joy, and we're here with all our problems. So what happens is, if I feel bad, good bothers me. I mean, we can get to this point.
Okay. Perciò,
so we're not able from one day to the next to generate a virtuous, wholesome mind that's perfect. It's just not possible for anyone. And that's why it's said that we should generate the motivation. And what's one of the reasons why that in Buddhist teachings, repetition is so important. Even Bhante Shantideva in Bodhisattva Charavatara says, there's nothing that's not easy once you're used to it. So we can transform our minds through repetition. So one of the problems that we have is what we're getting familiar with. Let's remember that everything I see, everything I listen to, everything I experience influences my mind. It transforms. It transforms my being in one way or the other. And this has to do with so many aspects. Just a side note, once I was reading um, um, a, a book um, and about humanity, and he was explaining when men then when men went from the hunter-gatherers to agriculture, and one of the things that changed during the agriculture, and here we're talking about 10,000 years ago at least, they started raising livestock, for also to cultivate the land and for food. And what happened, one of the things that happens is there was an important increase in the consumption of red meat. And what I understood is in societies where there was an increase in the consumption of red meat, there was also an increase of population, because that increases aversion and desire. So a lot of red meat, more desire, more sex, more children. This was the logic of this theory that was written in this book, to say that what I eat influences what I am. What I do transforms what I am. What I think it transforms who I am. It all influences. But the difficulty we have is that very often the input that we receive, it doesn't go in a respectful, altruistic way. If we see that a lot of the input that we receive, and this process of familiarization that we undergo, it's all based on extreme materialism. Also, when I watch a movie, for example, it could seem like it doesn't matter, but has an influence. It's a story that I'm watching. Nothing wrong with watching a movie. When I start watching movies so frequently, I mean, the messages that are given to me, normally they're not the best. So generating the motivation is like putting effort into walking, going against the grain, going against the current, opposite to what the world is proposing us, which is based on selfishness, the law of the strongest, and there's an enormous importance is given to external appearance, right? It's constantly, I mean, even from even small children have, we brainwash them. Oh, look how beautiful you are! Look how beautiful you are! And we see small children show a to show a way to the world to be judged, by their physical appearance, and we can go to extremes. When sincerely, if I'm fine with myself, how I appear to others, what does that matter? If I'm at peace with myself, if I'm fine, if I'm joyous, if I have hair or don't have hair, if someone sees me in one way, if someone says, "Oh, but you dress badly," well, then that's your problem. It's not my problem. Oh, or your skin, or I don't know. So if I'm fine, if you don't like it, look somewhere else. So we need to put effort to go towards a healthier direction, because the input that we receive from outside is not. A little bit, yes, but mostly not. So what do we want? We begin the day, begin the week. What do I want this week? What are my priorities? And here, something that we can do, we can give specific priorities. Don't leave everything too generic. I mean, Buddha gave us clear clear instructions. Love for yourself, love for others, generate your ability to generate the 6 perfections with generosity and patience and etc. Soktra, we say in Tibetan, this etc. and so on. We say, through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. What are they? It doesn't matter. No. And there's something I've said a couple times, a little joking, but I think it works well. We need to take at least once a week, and we need to dedicate it to something. So today's Monday. Let's choose. There's 7 days a week, and 6 and 6 perfections. At the basis is altruism and love. So let's say Monday is the day dedicated to love. Okay, so allow ourselves to see others, have this intention that we want others to be well and not suffer. So my priority of today is to familiarize myself with a sincere feeling of love and compassion, and go beyond the I and the mine. Allow myself to see the other and generate this motivation in the morning. It'll be a little artificial, sure, but it's going to work, because little by little it becomes natural. So I generate that intention. I bring that throughout the day, and there are key moments during the day where we stop what we're doing, and at a certain point we eat. We let's use that moment to remember the motivation of the day. To when we get to the end of the day before we go to sleep, let's look back and see how it went. Let's and set the intention for the next day. Then Tuesday, generosity, and then we have morality, our ability to cultivate what's good for us and avoid what's bad for us, and we have patience. So to not react with aggression in front of our objects of anger, physically, verbally, and mentally. And then we have the practice of enthusiastic effort. We put energy into what's virtuous but difficult. Then we have concentration, have this mental presence in this present moment. Then we have wisdom. This is this coherent view of the world. What's subjective is subjective. What's impermanent is impermanent. We recognize these games of the mind where we see what's impermanent is permanent, etc. But if we're able, at least, if we're able to take one day a week and give it a direction, an objective, otherwise our tendency is, in Portuguese we say, we're pushing with our belly. We don't even put effort in. We're just walking and pushing with our belly. So in the end, life just is life. Otherwise, we become like a boat that goes from one direction or another, depending on the currents and the wind and the waves, and doesn't have an actual guide, direction, because the one who gives the direction is our mind. Without taking any importance away from our body and our environment, Of course, if I give a direction to the to the boat, you know, but if the boat is not able to go in that direction either, I mean, I need to work on the boat or choose a different direction. If I want to navigate in a certain way, but there's no wind, it's just not going to work. So we need to respect our environment and our body, but it's our mind that's going to give our direction, and it's fundamental to remember that and come back to that. So the morning comes also because when we sleep, at the end of the day, before we sleep, often we're tired mentally, because physically, as the hours go by, our mind gets intoxicated. It's said that after 18 hours of not sleeping, it's like intoxicated, as if we were drunk. It's said, and when we sleep, what happens is at a certain point there's a kind of liquid, and it like physically cleans our brain from toxins. That's why if you don't sleep for many hours, you lose the capacity of our senses, and and if you haven't slept, but you need to pay attention, then the cortisol comes out, the adrenaline comes out, and then you can't sleep. I mean, I know people because of work, they have to stay awake all night. The doctors, for example, who work in emergency wards, but it's not like you're awake doing nothing. You're awake and you're saving someone's life. So even if you're extremely tired, the adrenaline comes out. I know people who, after 24 hours of not sleeping, working in emergency wards, that you think that you'd be able to then go back to bed, but no. Normally, they go to the gym. They go running. They go run half of a marathon. There's so much cortisol and adrenaline in the body, they can't sleep, even if the body would need sleep more than anything. This is another subject, but the point is, when we sleep, the body naturally cleans the body from the toxins. So when you wake up in the morning, your mind is fresher. You have more ability to have more mental clarity. It's not for nothing that it's said that the morning is the best time for to meditate. I mean, you can meditate anytime, but the mind in the morning is fresher, even physically. That's what happens. So even at the end of the day, if I'm tense, after a good sleep, one feels lighter. And so with that clarity of the morning, I give the direction. And to do this, we need to allow something important. We wake up and we create in that allotted time the motivation of my day before doing any other activity, before picking up my cell phone. I invite you to buy an old-fashioned alarm clock. Why? Because this object, what happens? Oh, I use my cell phone for my alarm. Okay, I have to turn off. I have to turn off my alarm. I already see 4 notices. And once it's down to generate the motivation, and then you're already thinking about the messages, and then once you've reached a state of concentration at a higher level, it's different. Like a friend of a friend who did a long retreat in the mountains, like 20 years in the mountains doing a solitary retreat. He came down to, and the monastery, they gave him they gave him a space to continue his meditation. And he would walk like a half an hour to a friend, and would sit. He would sit at his friend's house on a balcony that overlooked the train station or bus station. It was the noisiest place in the city because he training in a context where there would be distractions, but you don't get taken by those distractions. But since most of us are not like him, when we wake up, you get up if you need to get up, or, splash your face with water if you need to, but then sit down, breathe a little bit, and generate the motivation for the day. It can last 30 seconds. It can take 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time necessary, and that will make so much difference if you can do it before doing anything else. And then you get up and you make your coffee or whatever it is. But I mean, do what you want. But I get up and I begin, first of all, by generating some awareness. What do I want to do today? What are my priorities? Today, my priority is cultivating love. And tomorrow, my priority is generosity, and then patience, then enthusiastic effort. Sorry, there was also morality, and patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. So every day a different priority. I can also give the priority for each of these perfections the whole week. And then sometimes it can happen that then that becomes also just a habit, and then becomes automatic. But if we're really generating the motivation, then we can be careful not to fall into and to fall in this kind of automatic recitation, So if we invite some kind of little nice recitation, but then if we're reciting that and not really generating the motivation, it's not going to work. But the motivation is something that's really inside of us. So if every day, every 2-3 days we change, that also helps us to keep it fresh and not fall into like automatic way of doing things. There's a term that's used, I can't say in Tibetan because I think it's used in certain contexts. Where I studied at the monastery of Sera, we use this expression when something is done badly, or someone, for example, if you do something without thinking too much about it, it said, oh, that work was done drola pencha chicha. You did something bad, like you need to clean a room, for example, and you can see that you did it without thinking and you left the corners dirty. You didn't do it with attention or awareness. He says, oh, to say that you did the work badly, it says, oh, you did it for the benefit of all sentient beings, and it's a joke. It's because we have this habit of reciting in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I receive Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And maybe you recite it multiple times a day, and it becomes completely something automatic and without any kind of deeper meaning. But when we say for the benefit of all beings, something should really move within us. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. Okay, at least the thought of other beings existing needs to be inside my heart, in my mind. So in the morning, we generate this motivation, we generate this awareness without falling into automatic ways of thinking. Sometimes we also need help. And that's why I said, okay, we have the 6 perfections. We generate the motivation of the bodhicitta, of love and compassion. As a basis, let's try to create the motivation that has to do with our inner path, which is not, it's not that much of what I'm going to do, but how I'm going to live experiences. Because none of us have control over what is going to happen. But I can give myself a direction on how I want to live and experience those things. Very often people have come to me and says, every time I set my motivation to practice patience, it feels like there's someone making fun of me. But what happens when we give importance to something, naturally that we have more awareness. And so normally in certain situations, maybe we react without even noticing. But if that now is our priority, it seems as there are more opportunities to practice than there normally are. So, and if we want to practice patience and you don't have any objects of anger, then you're not going to train so much. But if you have many objects of anger, then it's a wonderful opportunity. If in front of your object of aversion, if you don't um, if you don't respond with anger, that's patience. I mean, you don't have to go looking for it. These objects of anger, they come. So if at the basis we want to give this direction. It's not that everything exists only in our minds, but our mind is what gives the main direction to our life. It's where we can then direct everything else. Today is a full moon. It's also a special day in the Tibetan calendar. It's called Tsamling Chisung, the day where we make offerings to all the divinities. It's like a party for all the divinities. So it's offering for all cultures, and the importance is given to the awareness of respect towards others. It's not the day where this practice is done. No, this practice is done to direct our mind in a certain way. So this is a day to remind us of the importance of having a healthy and respectful relationship with all beings, regardless of their tradition or culture, or religion. Tsamling means world, and Chi means general, and Sang is an offering. So we're offering to all beings spirit to all beings that don't have a physical body. We have many different words in our language and also in Tibetan. Nagas and protectors and etc. So in all contexts, and then also all beings of all cultures and religions. So we are praising them and making offerings to them. So it's an inner attitude of respect towards everyone, saying, I see you, I respect you. I respect you means I accept that you exist as you do. I I'm not I'm not imposing myself against you in any way. It doesn't mean I think like you do, or it doesn't mean that we want the same things either. But in my mind, I allow you to exist, and I'm not going to go against you. It's one of the first things necessary for a healthy relationship, because if we want to coexist, the first thing we need is that I need to accept your existence, and you need to accept mine. And some will agree on some things and not on others, and this is just normal in life. We're different. This is one of the beauties of the world, is that it's varied, so we shouldn't be afraid of what's different. We should have openness towards what's different, so that we can evolve and grow. And so to grow, we also need to we need to we need to know what's different. If we're always around people and beings that, if we're around people who think like we do, when we stay the same. But when we come into contact with what's different, then we're allowed to see, we can see what we are. And when we're with someone else, it's important that we shouldn't become defensive. It's fundamental, because one thing that's hard about accepting what's different is who looks different, who thinks differently. This happens within different worldviews, or between religions. We can become defensive instead, and we remember. You know, so like now they're already making the incense offering. It's not about actually making the offering, which is beautiful and important, or what's being recited. No, it's the inner attitude. It's also said that the beings that don't have a physical body, these kind of spirits, they can communicate from mind to mind. So when you make an offering, what's worth more is not the ceremonial aspects or the recitation, but the motivation in the mind. There's a story in Tibet, for example. There was a lama with his attendant, and they went to do a ceremony in a village, and there was an offering to pacify to pacify a negative spirit. So they offer a horse, but they offer it like a model of a horse used with a tsampa. You visualize the horse. And the boy who did it, the monk who did it, he was so proud of the horse. But then the monk the Lama who saw it, he said, that doesn't look like a horse, that looks like a donkey. And then after the puja, this divinity manifests through a medium, an oracle. So he said, oh, that young monk, he offered me a beautiful horse, but that Lama, he didn't send a horse, he sent this ugly little donkey. So even Kyabshin Rinpoche, he said, sometimes we need to make offerings for the beings of nature. It's not the puja that you're doing. I mean, you offer something as like if you're going to talk to someone, you come with this. When you come to talk to someone, we come respectfully. So open up. It's all to be able to open up our hearts and for this exchange. So for this. So today, if we say, I want to manifest respect for everyone. I recognize their existence. I'm happy. Everyone has his own things to do. But how can I say? If someone comes to us, the first to be able to have a good relationship with that person, I mean, that person needs to see us. So something that's harmful, that's hurtful, I mean, it's hurtful if we feel like someone doesn't see us. When instead, if we feel that someone sees us, naturally we open up to be able to go towards that person, have that encounter. And it's said that the same thing happens with the element beings, spirits, or these entities of nature. First of all, I need to see you. I need to respect you to be able to coexist in peace with you. And in this day, which is a day to remember the importance of coexisting peacefully with all beings, it's not something we should remember only today, but ideally with a certain frequency. Even here, let's try today to give emphasis to open up to the world, to respect others, respect different cultures and traditions, religions, see others and give value to others, respecting our differences, our own values and ideas, without having to say it's like this or it's like that. Okay, that's all. I have no idea what time it is because the clock in front of me, I just realized that it stopped. It stopped at 8:40. But I took advantage just to explain a little bit about today. So thank you, everyone. And if you'd like to go, if you'd like to make a dedication now outside, there's the puja outside. And let's make our final dedications here and remember the importance of our mind.
Drove munsela takto ne gyur che kewa kunto yanda lama dang drame cheki pela long che chin sadan lamge yende rabzo ne dorje change kopa nyur top sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lop kuncho sumki ngodrubot sol kuncho sumki trashisho.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Have a nice day, everyone. And now we will do we will throw the tsampa, this flower, to make an offering to all beings, all protectors, everyone will go out.